Hey everybody, it's Stevie J from AngryMarks.com. I love Vegas. We're about to head out there for the UFC Fan Expo and the fights. But before that, check out this audio clip of Peter H. and I previewing UFC 162 Silva versus Weidman. We talk about all the fights on the pay-per-view. Enjoy this audio clip and look for some videos from Vegas, from the Fan Expo, from everything going on out there. We'll see you soon.
Not saying it's a major one, not saying this is anything to get all worked up about, but so many people believe that Anderson Silva is going to smoke him that they basically had all their champions big up Weidman just to make the public think he has a chance.
See, the thing is, you have GSP. I've seen the release for months and months now saying Weidman's going to win.
Yeah,
but
GSP was one of the ones in the press release who said he'd win.
But that was like the first major person to say, like, you got to give this guy, it's not going to be a cakewalk, and Weidman's actually GSP's pick for the fight.
Yeah, well, in the press release, everybody either picks Weidman or is like 50-50 and says either guy will win.
I don't know. It's I don't think it'll be a cakewalk for sure. Weidman's got some definite skill.
Yeah, if it comes straight up into the terms of wrestling and holding him down, he could do that. But then we saw Chael Sonnen do that for 4 rounds too and lose in the 5th. So I'm of the believer now that Anderson Silva finds ways to win.
Now, I'm glad you said Chael Sonnen because I've been doing some research for this show, and there's a very new podcast, but I've started listening to the Steve Austin podcast.
Oh, yeah, I've been a subscriber for that for like 3 or 4 episodes now. The episode you did with Lance Storm was pretty fucking awesome.
Well, usually when I have a new podcast, I'll start at the bottom and work my way through it. So I power listen to them throughout the day. And it was Chael Sonnen just before his fight with Jon Jones. He said something that I don't know if it was reported or not, but the last season of The Ultimate Fighter with Jones and Sonnen, every fighter in the house got a UFC contract.
That was pretty much expected because before that season even aired, Jones and Sonnen were both talking about how it was the most talented crop of Ultimate Fighter trainees that they had ever seen. And Jones even hinted at that when I saw him at the UFC on Fox 6 press conference in Chicago. He was like, man, just wait till you see the guys on this season. They're all fucking amazing.
And one of those people on Sonnen's team, Jimmy Quinlan, he's kind of a star on, what's that site, Reddit.
Yeah. And
he posted details, and we have to give congratulations to Chael Sonnen finally marrying his fiancée this past week.
Mm-hmm. Yep, big up to Chael.
And it's weird. There was one detail, I loved hearing this, where Chael Sonnen, his mom drove him to the airport, and then when they get out of the car, he goes, well, no, just park it down there and you're coming with me. And she goes, what do you mean I'm going with you? No, I'm getting married. You're coming with me. Like, that's how he told his mom.
That's great.
Just with the clothes on your back,
Yeah, that's classic Chael P. Sonnen right there.
But going back to this fight, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but what does Anderson Silva have to do to win this fight?
Are you saying that like you think Anderson's going to lose? I mean, what is your perspective on that?
Does he have to change his game plan from the last few fights and come with a new strategy, or just do the same old stuff he's been doing for the last couple of fights? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm in the if it ain't broke, don't fix it camp, because what Anderson Silva has been doing has worked for him for like 5 years straight now. He's got the longest undefeated streak, the longest consecutive title defense streak, the longest pretty much fucking everything when it comes to mixed martial arts. So if you're Anderson Silva, don't break what ain't broken. Don't fix what's not needing to be fixed. He's already the ace at his weight division. I would not change a thing.
Well, according to 5 Dimes, the latest odds are Anderson Silva is a minus 230 and Weidman's a plus 190.
Yeah, and I think that's about right because you got to give Chris Weidman his respect for undefeated and for the guys that he's beaten. But until the champ is beaten, you cannot put anybody as a favorite over Anderson Silva. It's just, at this point, every time anybody's ever been hyped up to beat Anderson Silva, they have all fallen like trees in a logger's forest. It's not realistic to expect Anderson Silva to lose until he actually does.
The thing is, most of these fights, I'm looking over the odds just, real quick, and there's only a couple of fights that are outrageous. The rest of them are pretty tight, so it's a pretty interesting card here.
Yeah, they've actually stacked up this 162 card quite nicely. In fact, I think out of all the fights, I'm honestly looking forward to the Frankie Edgar one the most.
Yeah, Frankie Edgar. This is one of those inflated odds. Frankie Edgar is a minus 550 to Charles Oliveira's plus 425.
See, that's too long in my opinion. I'm not much of a betting man. You know this about me, but if I was going to lay some money down in Vegas while I was there, I'd put $100 on Oliveira for the upset.
Yeah. Edgar needs this fight. If he loses this fight, he's going to really regret going into this weight class. You know what I mean? Like, he needs this victory, and that's why the odds, I think, are heavy in his favor. But Oliveira, you make one mistake, he'll make you pay for it.
Absolutely. And did you see that interview that they taped for, I guess it was for YouTube, but it might have been for Fuel TV as well?
No, it's been my coverage for this show on like getting Fight Network, the promos and stuff has been really spotty for some reason.
Okay, well basically Frankie Edgar thinks that because it's a 3-round fight and his last 7 fights were all title fights, that he's going to come out like a house of fire in the first round because he doesn't have to worry about saving it up for later rounds like the 4th or the 5th. And he thinks he's just going to go out there and blaze Oliveira. I'm not saying that that's wrong to have that kind of confidence, but I also think Oliveira is not that kind of cakewalk.
I like how you used the term blaze and you didn't talk about a Diaz brother.
Oh, we can talk about some Johnny Blazin' if you really want to. I mean, we can talk about Ricardo Rodriguez because that's what everybody thinks he did.
Is that what he failed for?
Nobody really knows, but that's the general suspicion. It's either that or fat burners because apparently he's been trying to lose weight. And of course, when Sierra said this to me in the chat room, I said, to me, a fat burner is a Philly blunt with too much weed in it.
I thought a fat burner was a slump buster.
Well, whatever you want to say. All I can say is whatever he failed for, we're probably never going to get the real story.
All right, well, let's talk about the next fight. Tim Kennedy and Roger Gracie.
Yeah, I expect Gracie to win that handily.
What?
Yeah.
Are we watching the same fight?
I've been saying Roger Gracie is underrated for a while now. I think he's going to go out there and take him to the ground and submit him.
You do know he's fighting Tim Kennedy, right?
Yes, I know. Tim Kennedy is the All-American and he's a badass and everything else. But honestly, if you've seen enough Roger Gracie fights in Strikeforce, you know that when he gets guys on the ground, it's a wrap.
Okay.
I don't even care if the odds aren't in his favor. I'm picking Roger Gracie. I'm going out on a limb here if I have to, but I think Roger Gracie will win.
Stevie, that's a limb. That is definitely an out there pick. I mean, 4-7 7-2 in his last 9 fights. His 2 losses that were against Ronaldo Souza and Luke Rockhold. I mean, those are some pretty big names. Roger Gracie's not in that class.
And that's exactly my point, though, is that he lost to Jacare Souza. I mean, that is a legitimate badass. He lost to Luke Rockhold, a former champion. I mean, when your only 2 losses are to guys of that caliber, you can't really say that the guy is not a badass himself just because he got beaten by 2 guys that are as bad as him.
And those are both title fights, too. They both went 5 rounds.
And that's why I'm saying you're underrating Roger Gracie. Maybe I'm overrating him, but I think you're underrating him.
Wow. Well, that'll be an interesting fight for sure. Mark Munoz and Tim Boetsch.
Now, in this one, I'm going to favor Mark Munoz.
Big surprise. You're a big Munoz guy.
I always have been, so I'm not going to back off from that now. But it just would stun me to see Boetsch be able to do anything to him that Munoz can't do better or hit harder. I mean, Boetsch is basically known for taking a beating and being able to come back late. But the way Munoz hits, he's not going to get back up from that kind of beating.
I'm actually going to agree with you. I think Munoz wins this fight, but I want to say 3rd round, but I'm not sure how. I want to say knockout, but I don't see this going to a decision, but I think it goes into the 3rd round.
Yeah, I could see it being a late 3rd round like Junior Dos Santos and Mark Hunt, but I think he gets the finish.
All right, well, let's move on to the next fight, and that is kicking off the pay-per-view portion of the card as Cub Swanson fights Dennis Seaver.
Now, that is your coin flip fight of the pay-per-view.
See, I don't think it's as much as a coin flip as others have stated. I've heard some people say definite coin flip. I'm actually leaning more towards Cub Swanson. I think Seaver doesn't have much in the tank.
I'm just not inclined to write Seaver off at this point. I will favor Cub Swanson, and I will agree with your pick on that, but I don't think Seaver is washed up by a long shot.
Well, 34 in mixed martial arts is, that's pretty high.
Yeah, except that Randy Couture was winning world titles in his 40s.
Yeah, but if you compare everybody to Randy Couture.
I know, but I'm just saying you're not going to convince me that 34 is old.
But I'm looking at his last 3 fights, 2-1 in his last 3. His only loss came against Donald the Cowboy Cerrone back at UFC 137, beating Nan Fan and Diego Nunes afterwards, but both were decisions. Cub Swanson, his last 3 fights, I mean, he's actually undefeated in his last 4, beating Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, Ross Pearson, George Roop. He's on a hot streak. He's going to ride that hot streak.
Again, I favor Cub Swanson, but I don't write Dennis Seaver off.
Now, do you think Oliveira, going back to Charles Oliveira there for a second, I mean, he's fighting Frankie Edgar. Do you think he makes weight?
I don't see that being a problem. I think everybody makes weight for this fight. I mean, it's not like we got Rumble Johnson on this card. It shouldn't be a problem.
No, I'm just saying the last time we saw Oliveira, I hate bouncing back from fight to fight, but I do want to touch on the last fight he had. He did miss weight against Cub Swanson. It was supposed to be a catch weight at 145, and he weighed in a 146.4 catch weight, and he missed the weight. So, like, guys who miss weight the first time, their next fight, if they don't miss weight, if they miss weight 2 fights in a row,
yeah,
that's saying something.
Dana White is not too happy about guys who miss weight multiple times, which is why I get the feeling if he wasn't already on the Dolce diet, he probably will be.
That's another thing Chael Sonnen said in that show, is everybody on his team was on the Dolce diet.
I'm not even surprised that he would say that. Whether it's true or not, he'd say it anyway.